Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, and Wakanda, starring Shuri. Wakanda issue number 1, starring Shuri. And this was alright. It wasn't a bad comic book. There are two stories in here. The first one is called Shuri by Stephanie Williams as the writer, Paco Medina as penciler, Walden Wong and Elizabeta D'Amico on inks, and Brian Valenza on color art. There's also a second story in here called The History of the Black Panthers Part 1. Evan Narcissi is the writer, Natasha Bustos on art, and Jordi Belair on color art. I don't remember Natasha, being so, I don't know, horrible on art. I thought that she was better than this, but this was not a very good story. I didn't like the art in there at all. The story itself was just a really quick, come on in, kitten. It was just a really quick story about the history of Bashanga and whatnot. I didn't go into great detail reading it, but I don't know. It is what it was. VC's Josabino does the letters and all of this, and the cover art is by Matthias Manhanini. And there's a couple of covers in here, including a Art Germ cover, which is always nice. And everything Wakanda, for the most part, was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. I don't know. As far as the first story is concerned, it wasn't bad per se. Sorry, let me show you guys my new kitten. I had him for about a month and a half now. His name is supposed to be Popcorn, but I call him Stinky. You can guess why. And he's my little tabby cat. He's very smart, believe it or not. He's actually a very smart kitten. And Bagel does not get along with him at all, but yeah, it is what it is. So anyway, that's Stinky. You gonna stay up here? So this issue was basically, it's the Rhino disguises himself as a rhino and gets brought into Wakanda for some supposedly nefarious reason, but we don't actually know why that is. The next issue was supposed to be about M'Baku. Originally, he was called the Man-Ape. I don't think they're going by that name anymore because, oh my God, it's racist. I don't know, it wasn't meant to be racist when it was created. Some things just are what they are. Now I gotta let the kitten out because it's a freaking kitten. So, for all intents and purposes, it's one of those issues that could have been good, but here's the problem that I see with it. One, they're apparently keeping Shuri as this OP character. This character who she was always really awesome. Ever since her introduction, she was freaking awesome as far as being a fighter. On par with T'Challa. She considered herself better than T'Challa. Like, I would have won if I wasn't stopped with such and such and such. Okay, whatever. She was already the Black Panther and handled herself incredibly. Right? She did a great job. She's very heroic. She sacrificed herself to save her people. And then later on, she wound up being killed. And then she came back. And she came back with magic, the ancestral magic, which is very different than the magic that Doctor Strange or even Brother Voodoo used. Different than what the Scarlet Witch, by a long shot, uses, right? A very unique kind of magic, which made the character extremely unique and amazing the way she used the magic. And I was like, you know what? I love this. This, coupled with her fighting and prowess, this makes her an absolutely amazing, well-rounded out character. And I think that if there were better writers on it, it would have expounded into better stories with Shuri. I loved those stories. But then the movie came out. Now, I really liked the movie a lot. There were problems with it. To me, the biggest problem with the movie was that they made Shuri as smart or smarter than Tony Stark. Okay, now this is where I start to have a bit of a problem because I don't like it when characters are changed from their comic book origin. I say respect the people who created these characters and did amazing things with them. And boom, even if you're not going to give them the magic powers, which were fairly recently when the movie came out, fairly recent to when the movie came out, still at least make her a badass fighter. Instead, they just said, oh, she's steeped in science, better than Tony Stark, and the only science that she can seem to do is put on panther-shaped gauntlets that went pew, pew, pew when she shot them. She didn't even use them like, do, 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 bow, bow, nothing like that. she used them more expertly in this. She was able to like do uppercuts and things like that. Remember when Iron Man used to do the rocket punch? Like stuff like that. It's like, that's so stupid, but I love it. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a freaking comic book, so go crazy. No, in this, she's absolutely badass, and she's using her magic, and she keeps on talking about, I'm going to figure out the problem using science. It's like, when you know that magic exists, I mean, there's a thing. And I know the movie says that magic is just a way of explaining things through magic as opposed to through science, but they all, you know, coalesce into the same thing. I get that. I do, but that's not the comics. So now she's a smarter than Tony Stark, better fighter than Black Panther, character who also wields a very unique magic that nobody else has. And it's like, okay, at this point, it's too much. At this point, it's too much. I've had people who say, you're just saying that because she's a woman and trying to imply that I'm sexist. That's cute. That's cute. Nice try. No, I hate it when they do too much with male characters. Also, when they do too much with any character, when they make any kind of character seemingly being able to do anything, for all intents and purposes, anything and everything is at their whim, and nothing is a challenge for them. Nobody, for the most part, wants to read a story about a character that can just do everything. They used to write comic books like that, and they weren't good. Go back and look at the original Phantoma comic books, the original Stardust comic books, and so many other characters along those lines. And then later on, they would wind up making Superman himself, and it's like, why? Superman used to be somebody who wasn't completely invulnerable. He did have weaknesses, and then they just said, you know what? He's weak to nothing. Okay, here's kryptonite to give him a weakness, but he'll always overcome it because la la la, and it'll seem like it's nothing. If you're going to give a character superpowers that exceed everyone and everything else around him, you have to find some other way to give a challenge, because you cannot be considered a hero if things are just a challenge to you. Then you're just a good person, right? But a hero is a person who goes against insurmountable odds. If Shuri has all three of these amazing qualities and yet she's still struggling, then you have to look at the quality of her villains. I'm afraid this Ohyaku character simply isn't the one. It's simply not the one. I think that you have to nerf Shuri and stop using the comic book and movie versions of her and just stick to a couple of very basic concepts. This freaking cat, I swear, the kitten, I swear, I have to remember she's a kitten, because if a cat, I'd yell at her. It's just a kitten. Oh my God, stop the freaking meowing. Anyway, I don't know if you can hear that, but it's loud here. So I think that at some point they have to figure out what they're going to do with Shuri, because for now she's just some OP character who can do no wrong. Everything she does is just amazing. Oh my God, amazing. You're a 10, girl. You're a 10. This is like when a bunch of girls start complimenting each other, and they're very unrealistic in the way that they compliment each other. If you've got some broken looking chick and she's like, God, am I pretty? It's like, oh girl, you're a 10. Oh my God. What, on a scale of 1 to 100 maybe? No, a little bit of honesty would help. Maybe you should brush your teeth. You got that big green tooth right in the middle and stuff like that. Maybe brush your hair once in a while. Like if you were hit by toxic waste, okay, but like, guys aren't going to sit there and lie to each other. Oh, no, bro, you're a 10, man. You're a 10. That's not going to happen. We're like, nah, you should probably bathe once in a while. You know what I'm saying? Trim your beard, comb your hair. Take care of yourself. You guys were relentless when I had my hair really long. And I kept on saying, guys, I'm just growing it so I could, cut it and get some donations for it, right? For the Bloor Children's Hospital, right? Raise $310 for that. Yay, right? My second year of doing the first year, whatever. I think my first year of doing Comic Book University. But you guys were pretty brutal about it. It's like, yeah, you look like a bum. You look like you're homeless. You look like you're a scruffy nerf herder. Like, hey. But that's the thing. That's one of the things that makes us better. As long as it's, at the very least done to a limited degree, like, it's one of the things that makes us better. It's one of the things, it's the honesty. We should value this kind of honesty, right? And this is just one of those things I see. I'm so flustered by the idea they keep on making Shuri this and this and this and this and this. Maybe try giving her a disadvantage. Maybe try doing something like that. Right? Batgirl found a whole new life like nobody thought they were going to find for her when she had her back broken. Well, her back wasn't broken, that was Batman, but she had her spine shot out and she was completely paralyzed. And suddenly she found new life. And for the most part, people were kind of upset when she got the use of her legs back magically, right? Then later on through science. No, like, it was one of those kind of things where it's like, no, when someone, a man or a woman, when someone has to overcome some great thing and still becomes great despite all the obstacles put in front of them, that's the fine line between a good person and a hero. That's the kind of thing that I think for the most part we want to see in comic books. That's what I would like to see in this comic book, in any comic book that involves Shuri. I want to see a character who has something to overcome, as opposed to, how do I eliminate that last 1.1% of blah, 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 whatever, and turn it to 0.01%. That's not a struggle. That's not a challenge. That's not an obstacle. It just comes across as being extremely pretentious. Ramonda, Shuri's mom, in here talking about, oh, you're amazing. How come there's still a 1.1% problem, blah, 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 with you? Like, it's you. You should be so much better than this. Oh, God, and all the positive reinforcement and whatnot. Okay. Does anybody remember when Hulk was at his absolute best when we saw that his father was abusive and murdered his mom? And Banner had to overcome all of this stuff in order to be able to pull away or come away with the idea that he's actually a good person and he thinks he's a bad person, but this is what he's told by the biggest influence in his life, right? Does anybody remember the challenge that Spider-Man still to this day has to overcome with the idea that his Uncle Ben was shot because of him? Like, ultimately, because he didn't stop a person he could have easily stopped and should have stopped. There's so many characters who've had to overcome some kind of a problem with their mother or their father. You could have done this. I get it. It's a loving family. No, everything has to be perfect. Cool. When everything's perfect, there's nothing wrong. Everything's wrong. Then it's just your life versus my life. I happen to have some scientific achievements in my life. I happen to have some combat experiences in my life. I happen to have dabbled in the occult when I was younger. So am I just Shuri with a smaller chest size? My chest is pretty big, but not like that. Like, I don't get it. I really don't get it. What is so different between Shuri and me, if that's the case? Nothing. Nothing. I want to see struggles. I want to see something that she has to overcome. I want to see some kind of an obstacle that she has to kick down in order for me to feel like she's accomplished something when she's walking through the door. If there's a doorman, open the door, there's nothing special. But if you had to kick down that door, that's a hero's story. How you kick down the door is a hero's journey. There's not much else. There's just not much else to it. Anyway, it's a very boring character. I don't necessarily blame the writer, but I will blame the writer in this one thing. Rhino was supposed to be the big thing in here, and he was knocked out with one punch from Shuri. And I get it was a super duper, you get punch that Shuri did with the Panther gauntlets, but if you guys are new to the channel, you haven't heard me, and I don't want to rail on for too long, but enough people have heard me complain that when you take a character that is a threat to Spider-Man, right? The Rhino is a big-time threat to Spider-Man, and when you chump him out, and you have like Shuri or Misty Knight, or even Luke Cage. I think I saw Luke Cage do it. But all these different characters throughout time who have just one punch knocked out Rhino, I kind of have to look back at Spider-Man and say, dude, you got the proportional strength of a spider. You overcome all odds. You do these amazing things, and yet these guys, Rhino is no threat to them, but to you, you get your ass beat before you finally maybe sort of beat him. You don't elevate a hero by one-shotting somebody else's villain, even if it's not their major villain, even if it's not in their top 10 of major villains. You don't elevate yourself when this hero has a hard time beating this villain. All you do is show that this villain is a chump stain. If Thor or She-Hulk, actually, I don't, would they do that with She-Hulk? I don't know. But like, She-Hulk's ridiculously strong. If She-Hulk were to one-shot this guy, if freaking Scarlet Witch were to take Rhino and put him in a portal and be like, you're nothing to me. Hey, that's a power level thing, and I get it. But Shuri, she's so powerful that she could just, you know, oh, you get, and that health bar just goes all the way down to 0. I mean, at least give it some, at least make her have gotten some kind of a sweat. Make her have worked for this victory, but no. This is one of the reasons why I see comic books and I'm just not that interested in them. I see these guys, read these comic books, and I'm like, this just doesn't hit the spot like it used to. When heroes had challenges. This comic book, unfortunately, just winds up becoming a trope. It's not bad writing per se, but it is very typical writing of someone who just apparently doesn't really get how to make an interesting comic book. I would love to see a whole lot more than this. I would love to, I mean, like I said, the art on this was really good. I just don't see the writing as being anything special. Somebody wrote something. That is a persistent kitten. Somebody wrote something. Congratulations. I could write something. Any of you could write something. It doesn't mean anything. Okay, I'm going to end this video because this freaking kitten is getting on my last nerve. I think he needs his tummy rubbed. I will talk to you guys later. Love and peace. Like the video, watch an ad. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed. I was waiting for that last one.